Hey neighbor, today I'm going to show you a tool you can use in your vegetable garden to reduce or eliminate the use of non-selective pesticides such as Roundup. Well, when we have plots that are in transition and we're moving on to a different crop, a lot of times we have issues with weeds. Taking those plots, getting them clean, getting them ready for replanting. And Roundup has been the tool for a lot of people to use to do that. You go in there and spray it, you wait 3 days before you plant and you go back in there and you can plant that. But there is another method there that I think more people should be using. This right here, which is a 20 by 25 6 mil plastic tarp. It's really just a piece of plastic. We call it tarp because that's the way we use it. We actually have them in different sizes, but this size right here, I find for the small to medium backyard gardening is a wonderful tool that is underused. Now this here is a prime example how this tool really excels. This spot right here was my tomato spot for the springtime. We come here, we took those dead tomato plants out, we pulled the T-post up, we left our irrigation in place because we're going to replant beans here. But we had a lot of volunteer tomatoes coming up. We had all kind of weeds flushing up there. We needed to do something about it so we could replant there. So I came in here 5 days ago and I put this tarp down. I spread it out. Now, the tarp is 20 by 25 and my plot wasn't quite that big, but that's the thing. You can use different size tarps on different size plots by simply just folding it over or covering a little bit extra area. Or if you've got more that you need to cover, you can move it. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I came in here 5 days ago. This is what I had right here is all these little plants coming up here. I was either going to have to spray them with Roundup or either use a tarp. Tarps are a lot more friendlier to the environment and actually can be better to use here. Do you see all these plants right here? See how they have wilted down there? That is 5 days. 5 days ago, these weeds was up growing like crazy. I put that tarp on there and I've took care of those weeds. Now there's a couple different ways I can do this. I can pull this tarp back, put it over there out of the way, give it 3 or 4 days. If there's any more weed seeds in here that want to come through, I can give them a chance to germinate, come up, pull that tarp back over and hit them again. You just clean all these weeds up. Or if I've got a bigger plot than what I've got tarp, I just simply move my tarp back, cover the next area, and then rotate it back in about 3 or 4 days. Maybe 5 days, 7 days, somewhere in there. So that way I continually use my tarp on particular areas here. Works wonderful. But not only does it work well for weeds, but it does the same thing for controlling moisture. So when we put this tarp down, what happens is we're saving all that moisture that was underneath there. There's a lot of moisture underneath here because it rained a couple of days before I put the tarp down. Now out here where the tarp is not at, where the tarp was not at, it hadn't rained since I put the tarp down, and that soil is a lot drier than what this is. So it does conserve our moisture underneath there, and believe it or not, it really doesn't get that hot underneath that black tarp. Now our mind says it's supposed to, but it really doesn't. What you do not want to use for this is a clear plastic. A clear plastic is what we call solarization, and it will get extremely hot. So a black or maybe even a white tarp, if you can get it, would work. Both of them work pretty good. I just like the black better. It controls the weeds, it controls the moisture in there. It just puts everything to sleep and keeps it exactly the way it was when you put the tarp down, except the weeds are gone. It's actually good for your microbes, your earthworm population as well, because it keeps all that organic matter in there for them to feed. It doesn't overheat them. It kind of shades them out so they don't get too hot, so it works perfect for that also. But here's another way I think this tarps really come into play, and this probably is more so in the spring than it is the fall. But in the late winter, when we're getting our plots ready for spring, we may get a plot ready 2 weeks before we have to plant it or need to plant it because we're waiting on cold weather to get out of the way. And we all have jobs and responsibilities, and we may need to get a plot ready, put it to sleep till we get ready to plant ahead a little bit, and you can do that with these tarps. You can get your irrigation laid, you can get your plot laid out just like you want it. You can tarp that plot, put it to sleep, so that when you're ready to plant, all you gotta do is pull that tarp back and you're ready to plant. It's really good for planning out your spring garden and help you manage it somewhat, because we can't all get out there at the same time and do the same thing. Sometimes we have to plan ahead a little bit, and that tarp allows you to do that. Now the 20 by 25, I think works really good for small gardens, and if you're working by yourself all the time, it's real easy to manage that. We sell bigger tarps, but they are heavier, and if you got help, they work fine. You got bigger plots, that's the way to go. But if you got smaller plots and you're working by yourself, you want to go with a smaller type tarp because it's just easier to spread out and easier to work. There's a few ways to pin these things down, because if the wind gets up, it can take your tarp over to your neighbor's house. So we want to make sure we secure it in place well. And there's a few different ways. One of them is a pin. This right here is called a landscape pin, and you can pin it down with this right here. The problem with that is we have to punch holes in our tarp. It works though. Not my favorite method, but it works. Another one is something like a brick or a block. Pretty simple, ain't it? Well, that will work also. The only bad drawback to this right here is it does have sharp edge on it, and it can kind of ravel it up and put little small holes in the tarp sometimes. I think the best method is a sandbag. This is my favorite right here. A little sandbag, I fill them up with sand. I did these about 6 years ago. Now some of the ones in there are kind of rotting in a little bit because they've been left out in the sun for 6 years. But they hold up pretty doggone good. I mean, if I get 6 years out of a sandbag, that's not bad at all. I like this the best. They're easy to handle, and they don't tear my tarp. They just work really good as the sandbags there. So that's my favorite method as far as putting them out and securing the tarps down. So here's another reason tarps works well. You see this weed right here? This is one of the most troublesome weeds we have in the garden. This weed right here, the proper name for it is Nyuri. The common name for it is chamber bitter. A lot of people think they're dwarf mimosa trees because they do resemble that a lot. But it is a small weed. Not only do we have a lot of problems with it, most of you do too. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Underneath that plant there, when it matures out, you can see these little small round balls starting underneath there. It puts on a lot of seed, and it seeds out quick. It'll have all seed pods all up and down there, and the next thing you know, this thing has seeded out, and you got seeds everywhere, and they're just coming up like crazy. But this is what most people don't know. This plant here has a waxy buildup on that leaf there. And if you're using a non-selective herbicide such as Roundup or pretty much anything, it really has a hard time holding on to that leaf. It'll spray that leaf there, you'll notice it just kind of rolls off of it. So to kill this right here with a non-selective herbicide, you need some type of sticker in there to make it stick. But a tarp doesn't care. That's the reason a tarp works really good on these hard to control weeds that your herbicides are having issues with. Now this tarping technique could also help you on raised beds. If your raised beds is a 4x8, which is what standard raised beds are, I would cut this up and maybe like a, I don't know, maybe a 5x10. You want to give a little bit extra on the edge there so you can lay it over and smother out those weeds, or maybe put that raised bed to sleep for you. I think it's a great strategy for that. A great strategy for plots to reduce or eliminate your Roundup.